Phoenix was one of those hand-me-down games I had as a kid, and I always wanted to be good at it. There was something about it that just made it cooler to me than most of the other games we had for the 2600, and I think it was probably something to do with the enemy design. I was a strange kid, and I enjoyed games like Pole Position 2 for its ability to scroll the background in and out of sight. Something about seeing that made the game feel special to me. Like somehow the console was doing something that I didn't think the Atari should be able to do. And I think I got a similar feeling, although to a lesser extent, when I encountered the mid-level enemies and bosses of Phoenix. And it was a game I always desired to be good at, but I never honestly was. I'm a big middle-aged boy now, and I'm sure I can conquer the Phoenix and destroy the massive spaceship afterwards. Right? Phoenix was originally developed for the Japanese arcades back in 1980 by Taito. The American arcade rights was purchased by Centuri, and the home rights were picked up by Atari for a 1983 release on the 2600. Just a side note, but Atari sued Magic over Demon Attack, because they felt it was too similar to this game. The two companies settled out of court with the Magic still being allowed to distribute their game. The more you know. But anyway, back to reviewing Phoenix. I was never familiar with the arcade game, and I want to look at this one on its own merit anyway. And before I forget, this game is compatible with the Atari 2600 Plus, and looks pretty darn good on an HD television. At least in my opinion. When you first boot up the game, you start by controlling what looks like a spider, or maybe a guy running side to side with his arms and legs sort of pulled out and held away from his body. I don't know, it looks weird. In the arcades, you can better tell it's a spaceship. But whatever, I said I wasn't going to bring up the arcade. Focus, pro gamer, focus. So you start out against a small fleet of 8 vaguely bird-shaped enemies, and they flap their wings convincingly. Most of the 8 stay in formation, but 2 will start to drop down and kind of pursue you, making them a priority, and a more lethal enemy overall. If you manage to shoot the 2 that are moving sporadically before the rest, then 2 more will take their place. Next, you fight a wave in a V pattern of 8 more, slightly different in color, birds, and they behave essentially in the same manner. But to me, things get really cool starting with the next wave of large blue birds. They fly back and forth, left and right, and swoop down and back, all while shooting at you. You can shoot their wings off if you have poor aim, but it doesn't seem to hinder them at all. You have to instead try to shoot their center. When you get down to just a few birds left, they begin to dive bomb you, kamikaze style. Their shots also become numerous and hard to avoid when they're in this state as well. Then you fight a similar wave of cooler-looking red birds before moving on to the final screen. And this final screen is an alien and a UFO, slowly dropping down towards your ship in an effort to either shoot you down or crush you. The bottom of the UFO ship, or the red part, can be shot away, but beware as he shoots you from anywhere below the ship to try and stop you. Once you get enough of the red section blown away, you start shooting against the blue portion, and while smaller, this force field sort of rotates left and right, meaning that whatever you shoot just shifts away from you. If you can clear this, you can get a clean shot on the alien by shooting where he is. And if you connect, then you start all over with slightly faster and more aggressive birds. The gameplay is fun and has good variety for a 2600 game, but boy is this game hard. These birds move towards and away from you in an almost smart manner, but it's really just clever programming. And trying to hit the center of the third and fourth wave of large birds can be more difficult than you think. Luckily, you have a force field you can activate by pressing down on the joystick, but you lose your ability to move when it's active and could end up a sitting duck when it goes away. Still, the gameplay's fantastic, and even with its high difficulty level, I find it to be an enjoyable experience on the console. Graphically, the game can be somewhat impressive in some areas, mainly the enemy designs, but boy do I find the main player sprite to be disappointing. I can't help but to think it looks like a dude spreading his limbs out. Like a cowboy kind of marching out of a saloon for a shootout or something. As a kid, I thought it was a guy doing a handstand, but if that's the case, then what is he shooting from his midsection? You know what? Never mind. The audio is a bit repetitive with this sort of whirring sound effect playing while you battle the small birds. It's then replaced by a sort of melodic tone when the big birds come, and that sound can be quite entrancing. But I feel the most annoying is the sound of the beep beep that plays for the UFO alien boss thing. Still, even with that one complaint, I like all the other different sounds and the sounds of your fire and enemies blowing up. Overall, the game has some unique audio, and I mostly like it. And, as far as Phoenix goes, that's sort of it. You start with 4 lives and can earn another after you score 5,000 points. Once your lives are gone, you either have to start all over or just give up. It's a simple, addictive challenge with some unique ideas and execution, especially for the console. But I think we need to break it down in the really cool Atari Network pros and cons section to decide if the game should be recommended or not. For the pros, I really like the enemy sprites in this game. They're pretty unique and animate well. I also like the variety in enemies, with 5 different screens and 3 that change things up quite a bit. The game also follows the old easy to learn, difficult to master mantra. The sound effects seem like they should get annoying, but I enjoyed most of them. And even the worst sound that this game has is pretty bearable. The enemies also behave and act differently, even seeming to act intelligently from time to time. But there are some cons we need to go over, like the fact that the game can be really hard. You need to be up for the challenge. The final boss sound effects are by far the most annoying. I do like the shield, but it's too difficult to be blown up when it disengages, making its usefulness limited. Also, what's up with the player sprite? Seriously. But with all that said, I think it's fair to give the port of Phoenix for the Atari 2600 4 original one-button joysticks out of 5. The game is fun despite its difficulty, and it does so much right. The enemies are cool, and the sounds that represent them are pretty unique, and it plays great in my opinion. So if you never checked out Phoenix before, you might just want to give it a look. It can be fairly affordable and is well worth looking into. But now I want to hear from you guys. Have you played the original arcade version? Does it compare well to this one? Or have you played the 2600 version of Phoenix? If so, do you think I was fair to it? Or should I have scored it differently? And did I leave anything out of this video? Please leave the answers to all these and more in the comments down below. And be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. I do reviews like this one every Sunday and put out a weekly featured video every Thursday. We also do the Atari Network podcast every other Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific. We discuss everything Atari with myself and co-host Vinny Vineyard of Big and Funky Productions YouTube channel. So come and join us for the next episode. I'd also like to thank the following classy Atarians for supporting me on Patreon. You can too by clicking the link in the description. It's $5 a month and helps the Atari Network to grow. You also get exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, different audio files, early access to some videos, and of course, your name mentioned at the end of every video. Also, please join the Atari Network Discord server if you're into that sort of thing. The link will also be in the description. And we have merch available if you're interested, and you guessed it, the link is in the description. Okay guys, I'm the 7800 Pro Gamer, a man who burned to ashes, only to arise like a mighty phoenix here at the Atari Network. And I'd like to thank you all for watching my review of Phoenix for the 2600. And remember, stay classy, Atarians.